Testing. So we have a traditional Fulbright countdown when we're about to do something momentous, which is 3, 2, 1, fuck it. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to my talk, Programming Gone Home, How to Succeed by Being Lazy. Thanks for coming, despite the unwinnable party last night. I appreciate you being here this morning. I'm supposed to remind you to fill out your speaker evaluations. It's really easy to send you an email, and there's a link to a website. Excellent is the very first button on the top, so it's real simple. Anyway, before I actually get into the meat of things here, I do want to say that this is, despite the word programming in the title of this talk, it's not really a technical talk. It's more inspirational than and about process sort of stuff than it is about programming. So I'm here to give you pointers, but there will not be any pointers. So if memory management is your favorite thing ever, get the hell out. I'm just kidding, of course. Some of my best friends are real programmers. So anyway, if you haven't played Gone Home, here's some information about what kind of game it is. Hopefully it'll give some context for what follows. It's a first-person narrative exploration game. We made it with Unity. And it's a big, mostly static environment with no combat, no NPCs, no puzzles, no gameplay. That's a joke. This is my bio. It doesn't really, not about me, but it's actually just a list of companies I've worked at. I would like to take this time to thank all the incredibly lazy yet talented people that I worked with over the years. All the inspiration for this talk was stolen from them, which is a suspiciously useful segue to my first piece of advice. Steal from your coworkers. So to make a good indie game, what you first want to do is get a AAA job, work there for several years, and learn all the amazing things these talented and experienced people have to teach you. So for example, when we were first talking about the ideas for what would become Gone Home, we already knew roughly where our talents lay, how much work 3 people could be expected to reasonably do in how much time, and what the missing gaps in our skill sets were, like environment modeling, for example. And we also knew how to make FPS games, which was useful, and what to expect from top-level game development tools. And so Gone Home actually shipped ahead of schedule, which is fairly rare in my experience. Yeah, so maybe that doesn't sound great to you, having to get a AAA job before actually making a game. Luckily, there's other ways to benefit from other people's mistakes. You should grab beers with friends, specifically indie friends. I call them useful friends. They're smart. They've already solved a lot of the problems you'll face making games, and in a way that's probably more relevant to your experience as an indie than AAA people. For example, they'll never tell you to hire more producers. So lots of cities have indie meetups or groups or game jams, and there's also tons of great conferences all over the place. GDC, Indiecade, Lost Levels, GamerX, basically anything but PAX. Next, do the minimum. So pick your battles. If you're making a first-person walking simulator, a custom rendering engine is probably not the best windmill to tilt at here. This is a really great quote by Mike Acton, who is a real programmer. Asking, should we write our own engine is the wrong question. Ask, which of our own problems can we solve better than anyone else? So I think if you ask yourself this question a lot, you'll cut down on the work you have to do by a ton. So for example, I spent a lot of time programming the doors in Gone Home, believe it or not. Probably the most time of any gameplay stuff that I did was working on doors, because it turns out that getting mostly realistic doors in a way that doesn't end up with a player stuck in corners and the designers get to place doors wherever they want to in the level and stuff like that is a problem that we really needed to solve, and there aren't a lot of solutions out there. As a counterexample, I wrote the save system for Gone Home. It was pretty complicated. It took me a fair amount of time. There were a lot of bugs with it, and it was really limited in what it could save. It ended up working, but a few months before we shipped, I found like a free save Unity serialization system that someone had written, and just was out there on the web that did it 10 times better. So that was extra work that I made for myself foolishly. Next tip is make the designers work. They're going to get all the credit anyway, so you might as well make them do the work. No, but seriously, your content creators are making the game, and as a programmer, you're supporting them. So your job is to give them the tools to do what they want, so they can do it without bugging you. It's good for a few reasons. If you don't have designers bugging you all the time, you have more time to solve the problems that only you can solve. There are a lot of things that you need a programmer for, and only a programmer. And it's good to have time to actually work on those. Also, if the designers get to do whatever they want, they are a lot happier about that, believe it or not. And it also just kind of improves iteration time across your entire team, because there are fewer bottlenecks on every change. You don't have to have someone come to you and say, oh, I need this thing, and then you have to implement it and check it in and maybe test it before checking it in, hopefully, and then wait for the build to come out and all that sort of stuff. Instead, they get to go off and do their own thing happily. Also, another good strategy I found is having designers prototype what they say they want before you start making it, because it's a perfect way to find the holes and missing information that they will inevitably forget to give you. Plus, at the end of it, you get something much better than a gigantic design doc. You get an actual working model that you can just sort of copy, and then everyone thinks you're a genius and you didn't do any work. It's great. But you might need to give them a few simple tools to start prototyping if there's no way to even try to accomplish what they want to do. And making that basic tool so that designers can start working might be the only solution you need, which brings me to my next point. Find the easiest way to do it. I think pretty much all programmers have this instinct. When we hear a problem, we start kind of in our brains designing systems for that, trying to think of oh yeah, this is the way I'd solve that, but oh yeah, there's this edge case, and I'm going to need to come up with a way to address that, and these are potential bugs that might come out of that, and don't do that. Instead, do the easiest, most basic thing you possibly can to solve the problem in the short term, and then if necessary, keep working on the design. But it might not be necessary. A lot of times the good enough solution is actually good enough, and sometimes it's even better. I won't name any names, but on projects that I've worked on in the past, I've seen these vastly over-designed systems that took weeks of programmer time to implement, and then as soon as they were finished, they had to be entirely thrown out or changed drastically because they didn't actually do what people really wanted them to do. They did something that the programmer made up in their mind, basically. Another reason to make a basic solution to start is that it's a lot easier to make something once you've got a kernel to kind of accrete around. If you've got something and you just need to add a few more features to it and then a few more features to it, that's a lot easier than taking a 20-page technical design document and implementing it from scratch in a blank Visual Studio window. And then also, when you start that simple implementation, again, a lot of the problems that you don't know about, the unknown unknowns, will make themselves known as you start trying to solve this problem. And that's a lot better time to have that happen than, again, after you've written your perfect 20-page system and are starting to implement it and then find you have to redesign the whole thing the minute you write the first line of code. So an example of this is the putback system in Gone Home. The way this happened is we had some players, or early playtesters of the game, who went in and they they said, oh, this isn't working for me because I feel like some kind of monster with poor motor control. I'm supposed to be in my family's house handling objects that mean something to me, and instead I'm throwing them across the room. And so we said, okay, fair point. We probably should work on a way to get people to put things down on things. So I've done that before in games that I've worked on. What you have to do is you shoot a ray out from the reticle and find the surface it interacts with and make sure that it's close to horizontal, and then you find the normal of that and orient the object they're holding to that. And it's complicated, it's expensive because you're doing ray casts all the time. There's lots of edge cases, like the back of a chair might be flat enough and things, but you don't actually want to be able to put things there. Anyway, it's really complicated. So I said, okay, I'll start working on this, but to make sure that this solves the problem that these playtesters were having, I'll just make a simple component that you can add to an object in Unity, and it's a little object that Steve could place in the world, and when you frob it or interact with it through our existing interaction system, it just kind of transports the object you're holding straight there to the same position and orientation. And that actually worked great. Steve then had the flexibility to put them anywhere in the level he wanted to. He had full authorial control over where and how they were placed. I didn't need to be involved at all. In fact, I was sometimes surprised and appalled by what he did with the system. Basically, it took like almost no time to implement. This is a super simple solution. It had very few edge cases because it was so simple. If you ended up being able to put things on the back of chairs, that's because Steve, in his infinite wisdom, wanted you to be able to put things on the back of chairs. Not my problem. And so in the end, it was 10 times better than this super complicated arbitrary object placement system that I thought we needed. Next, step away from the keyboard. So in AAA development, you can do this a little bit. People are pretty good about generally giving you some flexible time and so forth. But in indie, this really shines. You have, hopefully, a lot of control over your personal time and everything like that. So if the solution to a problem doesn't come to you right away, give it time. Leave the computer. Go get some exercise, see some friends, cook some food, do all those things that you haven't been doing because you've been making a video game. Don't worry about it, unless it's like the night before your release date, in which case you should probably not do this and just panic instead. Next, you should spend lots of time on Twitter. I really like this comic, by the way, because it's hilarious because it's not actually funny at all. But anyway, so Twitter, it was really great for Gone Home in general. Like, we got a ton of attention on Twitter. It was a great place for excitement about the game to build and just attention, conversations about what we were doing and so on. But actually, specifically from a developer perspective, it's really powerful to be able to ask questions to a whole network of people. They're often willing to answer, or they will pass on your question to their followers and amplify your voice. So you get this awesome network effect going on, especially if you have Steve with his like 20,000 followers retweeting your thing. Also, all the really good indie conversations seem to take place on Twitter these days, or at least get passed around on Twitter these days. So taking part in these conversations, helping with other people's questions, things like that can be good way to meet other developers who are trying to tackle the same problems you are and, make friends, which is a good thing. I like making friends. Next one, start your photocopiers. So there's a ton of free stuff out there these days for games. There's a bunch of example code, there's free libraries, there's wikis, there's like Unity Answers site, there's people making cool Twine packages, things like that. Use all this stuff, at least as a starting point. Probably no one has solved the exact same problem you have, although maybe they have. And then sometimes you'll find, like some poor guy asking a question saying, oh, I tried this and it doesn't work. Those can be illuminating also. Maybe you'll look at the code and see the tiny mistake that this person made. And hopefully you'll post and tell them that. Or maybe, someone will say, oh, the documentation is lying to you, this doesn't actually work, or, oh, this is way too slow to, be run every frame or something like that, and that'll stop you just barking up the wrong tree for a while, so you can pursue better solutions, hopefully. So I think the more time you spend coding, the less time you actually spend writing code, and the more time you spend hitting Control-C and Control-V to kind of assemble code out of disparate parts that either you've written or someone else has written. At least that's been my experience. So along the same lines as this, why work when you can pay someone to do it for you? These days you can actually buy some really great code and assets and basically everything you need to make a game for not very much money. So this harkens back to one of my earlier slides, that quote from Mike Acton, solve your problems. So if someone is selling an amazing wheel on the Unity Asset Store, give them $20 for it. Don't reinvent it yourself. And speaking of that, the Unity Asset Store is entirely life-changing and possibly industry-changing. We got the beginning of our camera system there. We had to make a lot of changes to it. Our UI system, again, we wrote extra stuff, but it came from there. The rain shader for the windows, we bought all this stuff. It was, oftentimes less than the cost of groceries. It's really amazing. And of course, we also bought Unity itself. We paid someone to make a game engine for us instead of me spending, 4 years of my life writing my own game engine and failing. Also, contract work can be really valuable. If you're not an expert at something in particular, and it's not like a key central pillar for your game, consider hiring someone else who is an expert to do that for you. They'll probably do it quicker than you actually can, so why not? Note, however, that this slide, paying for it, came after getting it for free, because we are indies after all. So get it for free if you can, pay for it if you have to, basically. And then, so I chose to do a 25-minute presentation because I'm lazy, as we've already covered. So there's no time for questions right now, but if you want to ask me something, or if you want advice, or if you just want to be friends, even if you actually like memory management, here's how you can get in touch with me. A couple quick caveats, though, before I go. These things worked for us. I'm not about to claim that they will necessarily work for you. We were really lucky. Also, you still have to work really, really hard to make a game, even if you're lazy, or at least so Steve, Kate, and Carla tell me. So thanks a lot. Yeah. Do 5 minutes? Okay. All right. Actually, so I lied. We do have 5 minutes for questions, apparently. So there are some microphones over there. If you would like to ask anything, feel free. I can't see because there are lights.
Hi.
Yeah.
How's it going? Played your game, really liked it, thank you. You were talking about using the Unity Asset Store. How do you judge which assets to use and which not to? Are there any copyright issues? I'm new to this myself, so just asking.
Copyright issues. I don't know. I'm fairly sure Unity, as far as copyright at least goes, Unity hopefully make sure that that's all taken care of. I put my trust in them as a gigantic organization. It hasn't bit me yet. If you can't trust corporations, who can you trust, right? But I mean, I think that is a really good question just on the quality level. Like, the asset store is fairly easy and open to post things. I mean, Unity does test and everything like that, but they do a very basic level of testing. So you can get bitten by buying the wrong thing on, you know, anywhere, right? You know, but hopefully reviews can guide you and things like that. And even if they don't, you're out $20, and that sucks, but it's not the end of the world, hopefully, right?
Yeah. All right. Thank you. But it looks very polished. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, over here on the far right for you. I came in a little late, so I sincerely apologize if you covered this earlier, but I was wondering if you ran into any problems where essentially you found an asset that you thought did what you wanted it to do, and your use case was slightly different, and kind of you ended up going through a wild use chase or whatever, trying to get something pre-existing to work. I've had experiences like that in the past where, you know, I basically either have to just put up with the odd behavior or start from scratch. So has that happened to you guys?
And you're talking about like purchased assets here, or?
Yeah, so like if your camera system, you know, had a little glitch or a quirk, or just didn't quite do what you wanted it to do.
Yeah, actually, I mean, that was very much the case. Like, we were making a game that doesn't actually have like shooting in it, for example, and we, you know, the camera we got was called the first-person shooter camera, and so we had a whole bunch of weapon code that didn't need to exist. Also, it didn't support gamepads, and I had to add gamepad support and things like that. But again, you know, you're much better off starting from a kernel that you can build on and improve upon most of the time than you are writing something from scratch, I think, anyway. It saved me a lot of time, at least. There were some cases, or one case, I guess, where we bought an asset that just didn't actually work for our needs at all, and we just bit the bullet and said, whoops, oh well. So.
Thanks.
Okay, I guess we have run the well dry of questions. So if you come up with any, again, you can feel free to email me or tweet at me or talk to me in person or anything like that. Thanks again.